What's going on, guys? Krenard here, aka Crypto Cray. In today's video, I want to get into my predictions for the cryptocurrency market in 2019, as well as a little bit of my predictions on the traditional finance markets this year. So before we get into the video, if you haven't already, please check out my previous videos on various cryptocurrency subjects. If you're new to the space, I think you'll find them informative, and if you're not, I think you'll find them interesting, and you can comment to those previous videos. So getting into this video on my predictions for 2019, my three main points are that Bitcoin will find a bottom in 2019. Second point is that the BTC, Bitcoin dominance relative to other cryptocurrencies will not break 50% this year after finding its bottom, and Bitcoin and the overall cryptocurrency market finding a bottom and trading sideways while traditional markets continue to sell off, I think will be a bullish signal going into next year. So going into the first point, Bitcoin finding a bottom in 2019. Currently, we've been hovering around this $3,000 to $4,000 price range since breaking through the long 6,000 support that we had in 2018. And I'll be the first one to admit, I thought we were building a long and good base at 6,000 last year, and when we broke through, I wouldn't call myself shocked, but I was surprised because I thought we were building a good base to go into this year and then work up from there. So once we broke through 6,000, I kind of had to reevaluate my thoughts on where Bitcoin would go going into the future. And I think that that's the most important thing for any investor or trader. And I'm not necessarily a trader. I don't trade the moves in the market. I just kind of identify the main projects that I like, the main coins that are addressing key needs, and I invest in those for the long term, thinking of at least a 3 to maybe 5 year time horizon. And obviously when you're investing in these markets, it's very high risk, so you should limit your exposure. Don't go all in on a crypto, obviously, and I can make another video going into kind of investing strategies if you guys would like. So like I was saying, we've been ever since breaking that $6,000 support in late in about Q3, I would say, 2018. We've been trading in this $3,000 to $4,000 range for a few months now, and unfortunately, I think that this isn't going to be the ultimate bottom. I think that Bitcoin will find its bottom around $2,500 to $1,000. There are various, chart technicians and traders and other people on YouTube, which you can go to for their more kind of in-depth analysis on that, and that's kind of where I'm getting my this kind of prediction here. But it's all those predictions are basically based on looking at the chart and looking where key support levels are, right? So we have a key support level at 2,500, and then I think at worst case scenario, if it tests around $1,000, we would hope that that's the absolute low, and that's on a technical side, right? So if you're thinking about it on a fundamental level, obviously you believe that Bitcoin has value fundamentally going into the future. So it's while it's not a zero or percent possibility that Bitcoin is worthless, I think that most people that know about cryptocurrency, know about blockchain and Bitcoin, would say that there is fundamental value and it won't go to zero. So obviously we'll find support somewhere within this range, right? So that's the first thing. I think we'll trade in that $3,000 to $4,000 range, maybe for a little bit longer, and then ultimately break through that. We'll see this kind of and I don't know if there will be necessarily a catalyst, or if maybe we just wake up one day and the market crashes and we don't know why. But I think that we will find a bottom in that $2,500 to $1,000 range, and we'll consolidate for the rest of the year before hopefully building a longer base to work up from in 2020. So my second point is that after we find a bottom in Bitcoin, I think that we will not see Bitcoin vastly outperforming and dominating the market as we've seen in the past. I don't think we're going to climb up to over 50% market dominance. And you can see in the charts that after Bitcoin broke 6,000, not only did Bitcoin basically lose a lot, but alts got crushed going down. So as Bitcoin was going down, in terms of nominal US dollar price, it was actually gaining relative to other cryptocurrencies. And we went as high as I think almost up to 55% or so. And I think that that was kind of the ceiling. And then I think if after it ultimately finds its bottom, I think we'll retest those levels somewhere around that 50% range. I'm just using 50% as a round number, but I don't think we're gonna crack above that. And the reason I don't think we're gonna break above that 50% or vastly, maybe we go 51, 52%. But ultimately the reason I don't think we will break above that is because it's my thought that some of the basically the coins, the coins in the top 20 or top 30 are going to outperform Bitcoin in this kind of sideways trading period for the overall market, right? So if you were to look at a chart of the overall market, it'll go down and then move sideways, but within that total market cap of all coins, right, you're obviously going to have some that are underperforming and overperforming. And while Bitcoin, I think, will underperform certain of the top altcoins, it's basically going to be a lot of these kind of ankle biter cryptos and ICOs that basically came out with all these grand visions of, promising the world and all this stuff. And now in early 2019, after a lot of these things have ICO'd for more than a year, people were finally realizing that, hey, this was nothing more than this was nothing more than a white paper, and it was nothing more than a promise, and really not a lot of utility are going to come from these ICOs. So I think a lot of them are going to basically go to zero, and then the money and any new capital that comes into the market is going to either go into BTC, Bitcoin, or into these top alts, and majority into these top alts, which is why I think it'll outperform Bitcoin, and why Bitcoin ultimately will not be able to break above that kind of key 50% market dominance that I think we didn't really see a break in this previous kind of like market sell-off in late 2018. And my last point is that after we do hopefully find a bottom in 2019, I think that maybe in the next few months, maybe midway in this year, I think that the markets will continue to trade sideways and build a support similar to what we were doing last year around that 6,000 support, where we basically built that solid, stable base, and then that's where you can move up from. And my prediction is that as crypto and Bitcoin are doing this, we're going to see a continued sell-off in stocks and in the traditional finance sector. And I'm sure if you guys were keeping track of what was happening in the stock market in December, we actually had the worst December in the stock market since 1931. So right, basically going into the Great Depression, right? So it was a worse December than 2008. And you can cherry pick those numbers, because obviously if you picked the worst month in the global financial crisis versus the worst month in this current market sell-off, obviously the worst month in 2007, 2008 is worse than this past December. But it's worth noting that typically in December you see what's called the Santa Claus rally, and you see stocks actually rise, and we saw a huge sell-off. And in the last few weeks we've seen a little bit of a rebound, but if you look at the charts, there is clearly a kind of bearish favoritism right now to the chart. There's clearly a downtrend, and until stocks can solidify that they break that downtrend, I think we're in a bear market in stocks. And the reason I think ultimately we're in a bear market in stocks is that a lot of investors and a lot of key institutions are seeing that recessions are around the corner all around the world. And that's ultimately going to drive instability for sovereign governments, for these multinational companies, which is going to put pressure on their stocks. And then the problem at the sovereign level with countries and their debts are gonna put pressure on currencies. And so what's going to happen is, as we see downward price pressure going in stocks and in some maybe emerging market currencies, you're going to see a a flight to safety, right, which is going to be maybe the US dollar, the Japanese yen. And I think that and normally what would happen in these in these kind of, these are called risk off scenarios, is that you see risk on assets, which cryptocurrency is definitely one of those. It's definitely a risky asset. Those you would think would crash because you see all of this risk all over the place, and you want to sell out of all of that, and you want to get into the safest possible asset you can. But what I think is going to happen is that people are going to see cryptocurrencies as a hedge against the traditional financial system, and they're going to stick with those because they're going to look at cryptos and they're going to say, well, these are down 80% or so, what do I have to lose? And if you fundamentally believe that this is a hedge against the traditional financial system, I think you'll stick with those. And that's where the thesis comes that stocks will continue to see downward price pressure while crypto just holds sideways. And in my estimation, if that happens, that's extremely bullish going into 2020, because going into 2020 we have another Bitcoin halving, and historically the Bitcoin block reward halving has led to the start of a new bear market. And symmetrically, if you look at I'm not by any means claiming to be a chart technician, but markets tend to move symmetrically. So the same amount of time that it took to go all the way up to 20,000 from the previous bottom in 2015 is about the same time it'll take to bottom now, and will be about the same time it takes to retest that 20K top that we had last year, or that we had at the end of 2017. So definitely interesting things to keep your eye on in 2019 in the cryptocurrency markets, as well as in the traditional financial markets. So if you guys have any thoughts on kind of what I laid out in this video, please comment below. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any sort of feedback that I can get on these videos. And if you guys have any topics that you would like for me to cover in the future, please let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.